Well, hello, true gardeners. So today we are in Fort Pierce, Florida, Zone 10A, and we're going to tour this beautiful front yard garden. So I really wanted to bring this one y'all's attention because so many of the people that call me for virtuals and for landscape installations have a very similar situation as my client here did in this front yard. It is a typical suburban front yard garden, and the thing that we really wanted to focus on were, I would say, three main key features. So this is you guys right here, and you're looking to kind of create this. Just sit down and really enjoy today's video because I'm going to try to go into detail and explain how we created these three things for this particular home. The first one being, we wanted it to not look like every other home in the neighborhood. So a lot of us have small, little squared front yard areas, and we wanted it to have interest, have curve appeal, have a little change up, not your same builder's package that you have in a lot of home after home after home after home in our row homes that we have here in Florida. And so he wanted something different, something pretty dynamic. So I think we were really able to achieve that with this combination of plants that you're going to see here behind me. And the second thing is, along with having those small front yards, a lot of us have neighbors that are like, you know, right on either side. So as you pull into your driveway and your neighbor's driveway is directly adjacent from you, and having someone so close, it's just nice to have a soft barrier, a soft wall. And I think we did a good job of creating that. And the third thing was to create this feel, to create this look and keep it low maintenance. So those were our three goals to have in this yard. And I wanted to bring this particular space to y'all's attention because this job was done a couple years ago. So things have really grown in, things have really become and established. And a lot of the tours that you see on this channel here, you guys get to see them right after we've installed them, right after they've completed. So I was hoping that being able to see things as they matured and really kind of see what the purpose, and being able to really see that the plants, when they were planted, now that they're grown, that they're achieving that goal. So a year, 2 years in, to me, is a great time to really see if a garden succeeded or if, you know, we fell short somewhere. So you'll have to let us know what you guys think of it in the comments. But right now, I kind of just wanted to share with you this combination of plants that work super well together. So hopefully this is something that you can take and recreate in your own space. Like normal, we are going to break everything down. So I'm going to discuss everything by layers, and we'll list the plant names with the zones down below on the screen. So that way you guys can screenshot that bad boy and head over and do your nursery shopping from there. And then I'll explain kind of the locations of where this plant sits in the area, sun or shade, and then kind of overall its growth pattern. Now in this particular case, you're going to actually get to see what that growth pattern looks like. So it's really going to kind of hammer it in, I think. And of course, as normal, if you guys have any questions, then reach out to us. Also, speaking of questions, those of you guys, thank you so much. We've received so many contacts for our landscape design service and our virtual service. That is a service that we've offered mainly, it's been just a little over a year now, and it is doing super well. If you guys want more information on how we can create a design for you, whether it's virtually or if it's a master plan service, then check out the video just down below. We're going to pin it in the comments. That's going to give you more details about each one of those three services we offer, from installation, where we handle concept to completion, to the master plan, something you can take and DIY yourself over time or hand it right over to a contractor, or our virtual service, which is a 1-hour virtual call with me, Zoom style. So we review your plants, your trees, and we review your pictures together and kind of get you on your way of creating your own design style, DIY style. But check out that video, and that'll tell you all you need to know about those services to see if we might be a good fit for you. But for now, let's get started and walking through this lovely front yard garden. When creating a front yard space and you want it to look different than all the other homes within the neighborhood, there's kind of only two different ways that I do that, two different points that I kind of really want to bring up. The first one is contrast. The first one is something that I always try to do within all my landscapes. You'll see me do that rinse and repeat in my garden. So first thing we're going to talk about here is the contrast, and then we'll get into the second point in a sec. So this is the first thing that I love to tell folks and share with them when I'm creating the design is you don't always have to do contrast with color. You can do it with texture. And to me, combining that with the color, it just makes everything really pop. So just to give you kind of a quick point of reference, on both sides of the home here, we've used pygmy date palms to soften each corner. And I think it does such a nice job of really giving just a casual feel to the landscape. But if you have too much softness in a space and it's soft and soft and soft, then you lose sight of the layers. That's why I love features like this false agave. I love this upright look. And you guys will see me that I use false agaves for that reason. I use king sagos, I use kunti palms, palms, anything that gives you this kind of formal structure, this kind of upright rigidity, really does such a nice job when you pair it with something like this guy or something like the Brazilian red cloaks to the back, because those kind of soften. It's almost like they pair so well together to give you like, oh, what's happening here to what's happening here. So if you can do that within your garden and find those proper locations for softness on the ends, maybe a little bit of formality, and it doesn't have to be something like a false agave or a king sago or a dayun. It could be something like, if you wanted something more formal, it could be a really cool multi-head topiary of some sort. It could be something that's just going to draw your eye and be completely different leaf shaped than the plants and trees around them. So it could be something formal. It could be a spiral topiary. It could be a really interesting palm like a La Quala palm that has a really rounded frond to it. So there's a lot of different opportunities to make contrast, but a strong contrast is super important, especially if you don't have a lot of room like this front yard. We really don't have a lot of space to work with here, so we needed to have pretty dynamic changes in this area. And of course, the next kind of contrast is color. A dynamic color change is so important, especially in a small bed. So if you've got dark tones, having something like this silver buttonwood that has a different kind of feathery, beautiful leaf, and then it has more of a formal hedge kind of feel, mixed in with the craziness of the Brazilian red cloaks to the back. It's doing double duty right here, because it's giving us this light tone of silvery white next to this dark green wall here that's backed by a white house. I think that combination just came through so lovely, and it gave us that break to go back with a dark tone down below. So you see we have dark with blooms to solid light silvery color here, down to something very formal with blooms. Then we come down here to a really nice clustering of this Kunti palm that gives you almost rigidity again, but softer. I think it does such a nice job of making it an instant collection of something a little wild, sprawling out, and then you pair it on either side with something real formal like the dwarf ixoras. And I get this question a lot, and that's kind of why I wanted to show this particular yard, because there's a lot of that. We're gonna have very formal plants, very what you would call clean line landscape, and then maybe to the back or to the sides, we've got some crazy, wild, free-flowing type of plants and trees, and makes those other plants soften. So it doesn't look like a full clean line kind of garden, nor does it look like a heavy jungle on jungle kind of garden. It has such a nice balance of both, and it works for this particular space because this is a small yard, and you can't let it go crazy. I love how natural and soft this is, but you can definitely see the layers even with a little bit amount of maintenance that gets done here. All right, and leading on to my second point is, this can be controversial. So a lot of times when you want a dynamic front yard, and I will get clients who will sit down and they'll be like, I just want it so different. I want it so fun. I want it so not like every house on the street. And then they pick all these great species of trees and interesting things that they found in garden centers or found online and want you to incorporate those. And although you can do that, I'm all for trying new things. I really do like the tried and true plants of Florida. I know our zones, and I know what they handle, and I know what can handle a lot of different soil types. And a lot of those ornamentals or dynamic palm trees that you only see one or two of in the state, there's kind of usually reason behind it. They can be finicky, hard to deal with, or very, very expensive. So a lot of my gardens, you guys will see that I use a lot of the same plant and tree material over and over again. I do use them in a structured combination that works, but I do use a lot of that same material that in a lot of cases are in the no zone when you guys are shopping or looking for your plants and trees. They don't always make the Pinterest board. But what I'm hoping to show and address here on the channel is that you don't need those exotics to really make a beautiful landscaping. You can get these things from your local nurseries or big box stores, and you can create a beautifully substantial design that is going to be here long term. So I'm going to go through the plants and the trees in this list, and then I'm going to go through how far apart we planted them, so that way you guys kind of have a good general idea, and then just overall size of these beds. So if you're planning your own garden, you're looking at the space and you're like, how big should I make this? Hopefully that'll explain this in the next part of this video. All right, so Bryce, if you back up a little bit, let's go ahead and just get this whole front. We'll kind of go through this nice and easy style. So on either side here, on the corners of the house, we have two triple pygmy date palms. We brought them in about 4 foot tall. You can kind of see they're almost full grown now and absolutely stunners. They're going to soften the corners of the house and do a nice job of kind of being our thick anchors to the front of this space. Those right there are about 6 to 7 foot off the house. So they're kind of pulled forward, but pulled at an angle. And then to the rear side here, right along the rear side of the house. Now I love to keep at least 3 or 4 foot open along the rear side of the house, especially especially if we're gonna go with big material like you see here. So if you guys are thinking about creating your garden and you're not quite sure how many layers you're gonna work with, definitely make sure if you're gonna use bigger material like the pygmies, like the Brazilian red cloaks, then you're gonna wanna be at least 3 foot off the house before you start that planting, because that's gonna give you a little bit of a walkway passage. So in this particular case, we were 4 foot off the house because I know these Brazilian red cloaks are gonna do what they're doing, which is get a beautiful size. Still leaves you plenty of room back there to get in there and trim and maintain. So 4 foot off the house, then start your planting 3 foot inside that. So 3 foot on center. So 3 foot forward of that 4 foot, and then again with the next layer, 3 foot forward, 3 foot forward. So overall, you're gonna wanna make sure that your bed is anywhere between, depending on the type of plant material that you're using, you're leaving 3 foot gaps for every plant grouping, for every layer. And that's gonna leave you anywhere between 12 and 15 foot, just depending on how much room you're leaving for your backspace. If you have more room or more length, say you've got 45 or 50 foot across the front that you're working with, then try to do multiple loops. So one big loop on that corner, maybe have it draw in more here and then have it curve down this way. I love the way that looks, and I do that often in my landscapes. Okay, so for the rest of this landscaping here, you can see we've got a Christmas palm as the centerpiece, and then we've got another Christmas palm flanking the corner, really giving us some nice impact on this side here. Of course, we know we've got the 2 pygmy date palms that kind of drop everything down. Our back wall here is our Brazilian red cloaks, and now they can handle full morning sun, filtered light to almost shady conditions, and they can handle full sun. So they're kind of such a versatile plant. Now I will say when they're young, give them extra water if you're gonna put them in the full sun. When they're this size right here, they'll handle the full sun and pop like crazy with blooms. The more sun exposure you're gonna get with those, the more of those blooms you're gonna get. However, this does not get a ton of sun right here, and look how many blooms we have. So just don't be shy on using those guys. Just down below, we have this beautiful leathery leaf. I just love this leaf here on these silver buttonwoods. These are a fantastic plant if you're anywhere near the salt air. They're just such a perfect shore plant. They're really tough, really durable, and can handle full sun, filtered light, but definitely not shade, because they're kind of, you can see we're a little bit filtered light here between the sandwiching underneath this tree here and all the Brazilian red cloaks, and they've got some thin spots for that because everything is kind of really filling in and growing out here. But you can really keep them nice and full and lush with just a tad bit more light. However, I think they're doing a nice job. So the very next thing on either side would be 2 false agaves. These are the male version, the green false agaves. They get a tad bit bigger than the normal false agaves that I show you, which are the lighter colored tones. You can see these are a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more dramatic. And I knew we needed that because, again, we didn't have a lot of room to work with, and I needed something real sharp, real structural in the garden. So those 2 guys are going to totally do that on either side. And then we drop down, we've got some Mammy Crotons on both sides, just a little touch of them. This is all going to be in that 3rd tier forward. So those are going to be about 4 foot tall. You can see they're real easy to keep, real easy to keep, kind of compact and small. I wonder if they get trimmed maybe once a year. I mean, they're probably pretty low on the maintenance line there. Down below is our final tier with these dwarf ixoras. Now they're not quite in bloom. We are dead set winter season and have had some cold snaps, but these guys are beautiful, nice and compact, nice and slow growers, super low maintenance, but are going to offer a bit of that darkness with those bright red tones, and that'll all come all summer long into the spring, into fall. I mean, they really do give you a lot of color for a good part of the year. Unfortunately, we're not quite in that part of the year. So this is a kind of barrier. This is a great barrier from back here. So you can see we get very tidy as we get forward. And you guys, if you've watched my channel, you notice that that's kind of my style. The first few tiers are very controlled. Parties all in the back with all the kind of crazy and the fun stuff. Then we'll use something dynamic kind of popping out of the middle, and that'll kind of give us all of our different contrasts in one bed. As the centerpiece here, we have something that is pretty undercover. Now this guy, I use him sparingly. These Kunti palms are slow growers, but when they get there, when they become nice and full and thick and dense, I just think they're such showstoppers. They're a whole different kind of needle-like look to the leaves, and it's such a different look than every other plant in the garden. I think they're just fabulous. And if you guys plan to use some low voltage landscape lighting, light these guys with some wall lights. Those are diffused wall lights, and it really gives this awesome shadow effect to this particular leaf. I just think it's just so stunning in the garden, and it kind of gives you just a kind of a low profile bit of impact without having to be big and tall and giant like a false agave or a bird of paradise. It's a little bit on the lower scale, so this is a nice touch to incorporate. And bonus, they are native. Okay, so now to address our next point, which is separation, a little bit of buffering from the neighbors here. So this is again, a very squared off, small front yard. Now it is kind of hard to make sure that these two areas marry each other nicely. And so that's what we wanted to do here. I wanted a continuation. So I kind of originally in the landscaping wanted this bed to kind of come around and curve into this corner, into this bed. However, in this particular situation, we needed to leave some room for access to the back, to the side here. So we have a fence that we're working with, but I do feel we were still able to kind of give a faux wraparound feel. I feel like this kind of curves here, and by putting a pygmy date palm here and a pygmy date palm here, we kind of have this just little soft secret garden entrance to the walkway space that leads to the backyard and the backyard landscaping, which I think just ties in so nicely with this particular space. But literally, I love that how this is almost just a full continuation, and you can see this bed starts that soft curvature coming through here, and no one would be the wiser that there is a house directly next to us here. It is completely gone from view. When my clients are pulling up their driveway, they feel like this whole pocket of the side yard, this whole pocket of this space is so private and so concealed, and it doesn't cover the house. The landscape buffering is on this side, not all the way across the front. And if that is your goal, if you don't want to cover the whole front of your house by buffering, you know, the outside space, but you want a little side buffering and still make it look tropical, not make it look like you just put up a wall, then maybe try some of this material and incorporate it just like you see here. We're going to go through again the plant grouping so we can identify it and how far apart we spaced everything out, so that way you guys can just kind of hopefully visualize that layout if this is something that you want to recreate for yourself. So what I wanted to avoid in this particular space is I wanted to avoid going with one row of something. A lot of people like to use a row of areca palms or a row of collusia. You know, those are great things, and they really do give you such great blockage. But if you can jazz that up with other materials, giving other contrasts in the garden, then that really does a nice job of giving you a beautiful garden feel, but also privacy feel. And that's exactly what we wanted to accomplish here. We didn't want to sacrifice one for the other. And I think that because this is a front yard landscaping, it carries off both very well. All right, let's start with the centerpiece here. Let's start right in the middle. So we have a Christmas palm that kind of identifies this area as the center of this garden. And this landscape, this buffer is pretty much designed like you would design a backyard buffer in sorts. We have a collusia hedge that runs right along the rear side, just a few foot off the property line. We don't have a lot of room to work with. And I can't recall how many we used, but I would say we brought them in about 4 foot tall, probably looking about 5 or 6 of them back here. So not a ton of material. A lot of times I'll try to do 3 and 3 behind a hedge so we have a little bit of uniformity, but to take away that stiffness, that softness, and make sure that it carries over and feels like it belongs to this section of the landscape too, we wanted to soften that by doing a pygmy date palm and a pygmy date palm, really kind of pulling that bed forward. So we've got a hedge to the back, the pygmies pulled forward, and to give us a pop of color, symmetrical color, we did a grouping of 4 Louisiana red copperleaf. I mean, look at the size of these guys. I mean, this is a pretty giant cluster that's just kind of been allowed to really kind of take over. And the goal for this particular plant is to kind of soften this giant pole and all of these lines that are running this way and that way in the space, and kind of, you know, take your eye from it and maybe help distract your eye going towards these Louisiana red copperleafs instead. So we have a clustering of these here, and then we have a matching clustering right at the edge of the bed there. And that, again, we have 4 of those there that were 7-gallon in size and have really just kind of taken off and becoming a nice bit of focal points there. And then we took the bed and we curved it around. So imagine this is almost like a J in this flat section here to kind of soften so it didn't look like we had a wall here. We curved this around and then brought in a nice grouping of philodendron. These are split leaf philodendron, and they're doing such a nice job of naturalizing that edge. They're just gonna, I think they just do a great job of taking your eye away from what was originally a very big eyesore in the garden, which is this big giant pole. But that's what I love about buffering. When you're working with a front yard and you want a buffer, now you can easily do something as simple, like I said, as a collusia hedge or a areca hedge or something that's just kind of straight across, and that's gonna do the job for you. But if you can buffer with interest, if you can buffer with layers, if we did a collusia hedge all the way across this, they would have had to let that Clusia hedge get real tall here to kind of do the job that we need done. Instead, we chose a dynamic spot for green and then a real pop of something else here to cluster and give us a break, or give us a contrast. And then we need to go back to green, something a little bit more soft on this edge, but now we have something with a completely different leaf, and that goes back into our contrasting material. This leaf is a whole different look than this leaf. This leaf is a whole different look than this leaf. We've got tiny, tiny leaves here, very compact, low maintenance plant here with something that grows a little bit taller, a little bit crazier. But because we know that that's the job that this is taking on for this particular space, it also makes it low maintenance, because we know we're not trying to keep this 4 foot tall. We want this to be 8, 9, 10 foot tall. That's the goal for this particular space, which leads us into the third point that I had mentioned, making it low maintenance. Now, you may wonder, copper leaves are not low maintenance, and you are right. Copper leaves, if you are going to put copper leaves in an area that you need them to be 3 or 4 foot or 2 foot, good luck with that, because they're going to be high maintenance. You're going to be trim like crazy on those. However, if you need them to do this, then you are trimming this bad boy twice a year, giving it a significant haircut, and then letting it flush back out to its glory. And that's kind of what I mean, right plant, right place, and it's really gonna work for you. So this is a plant that you trim very little. This is a plant you trim very little. You pretty much just take the brown off of it. However, if you put this in a spot maybe on the corner of the house that you don't want it to compete with something else, then you're really working on this guy to keep it kind of small and compact. But because it's here doing the job that it was intended to do, makes it low maintenance. Now for the areas, for example, that we need to keep the plant small, we need a plant that's always going to cover some of the stemminess and disguise some of the woodiness on both of these plants, which is the gold dust croton, one of my favorite, most reliable crotons. I just absolutely love this guy. Now, this guy probably gets very little trim work to him, but stays full from the top to the bottom, nice and dense and thick, and grows super slow. This guy grows inches compared to the feet that this guy grows. That's okay, because they both know their job. That's why they live together nicely. There's no couples therapy in this group right here. They all do their job. They all work harmoniously together. And that is the goal for Florida landscaping, is make it sustainable, make sure that you pick the right plant for the right place in the right environment, and you're golden. It's like you're making life easy on yourself by making your maintenance super low. So gold dust crotons for our low things, copper leaves when we're trying to block something and let it get big, Clusia for the same reason, pygmy date palms because they're trimmed twice a year. I mean, that's pretty darn easy. They do have thorns, so that does make them a little angry, but overall, very low maintenance. And then when we need to keep things little, again, we're going back in with something like this, like the gold dust crotons, because they do such a good job of staying low, staying small. So these are the little rubies right here. These are also a dwarf ground cover. Now, this is not their season. They're budding out right now. They're finishing up for the year, but next year for spring, these get a really good cutback and they become a beautiful leaf. This is just not quite their season yet. We've got some plumbago to the back that are just kind of giving us a little bit of softness as they reach out with those beautiful blue blooms. And what a gorgeous contrast in the summertime when these guys are at their glory. Look at that beautiful blue coloring next to the shiny leaf of the Clusia. Tiny leaf, big leaf. There's that contrast, and when it all comes together, you're like, oh, I like it, but I don't know why I like it. Two of the most common plants of Florida, plumbago, Clusia, crotons. I mean, these are common things that you can get, and really they work so well together because they all know their jobs. As long as you know the jobs that they take on, then everybody is happy in the garden, including you. Now, as we come to the upper part of this section of the garden, you'll notice that I did a little bit different at the end, and I always do a little bit different at the beginning, because that kind of gives you a little bit more character in the garden. It kind of changes up the buffer, so not everything is so super symmetrical. So as we work our way up here, we were able to pop the bed forward. Because why? Because we're trying to find a little bit of interruption in the garden. When you're looking from the street, I kind of wanted this to look like a faux coverage here, like this bed fed right over into this bed, and I feel like it does do that. But in order to do that, we did pop this bed forward this way by creating and putting a king sago here, giving us a step up to a pygmy date palm here, framing the gate and really kind of giving us some good balance in this front. Now, as these grow a little bit more, they're almost full grown, you guys, but as they grow a little bit more, it's going to kind of give us a canopy coverage, almost like an arbor coming to this back. And I cannot wait to see that happen, because I already see the softness happening. And now in next year or two, I'm really going to kind of see that finale of what that's going to do here. Really giving you a feel of like a secret garden entrance. I just kind of always, I love peeking back here. I love peeking through the gates, just kind of like, hey, what's going on back there? And I feel like that does this. Speaking of which, come on, you guys, take a peek with me. Doesn't that look so lovely back there? It's just like a nice private backyard tropical space, very low maintenance, very easy to care for, and very easy to put together. Nice big grouping of one of my favorite crotons, the gold dust, as you guys know, mixed with some quarter lines, some foxtail palms, which takes you from normally a very rectangular side yard, very squared off path, to a very beautiful curvature, meandering walkway. I absolutely love the side yard and how that kind of came into its own. So as much as I would love to claim this little side yard section, it is not. I'm gonna give all those props to Mike. Mike created and did the install for this space. Now he needed some guidance, a little bit of input. This was before we had our service for design only or virtuals. So I just gave him some input, some direction, some ideas of what's gonna really work in that space. We had some phone calls, kind of talking him up that you can do it. And sure enough, he took what we did here and those points and created this backspace. He is super proud of it, and I'm super proud of him because this has been a couple years grown, and I feel like it's just done such a beautiful job. And I love it when you guys send me pictures of a completed project, of tips that you've taken from these videos or from our virtuals or our landscape design service. I love seeing the final product because I can see the rhyme and the reason, the style that we naturally work with and put together, and I can see that you've taken that and created it and made it your own. I don't know, it's so rewarding, so thank y'all for that. Thank you, Mike, for sharing this yard with me, and I absolutely love the way it turned out. All right, you guys, so I hope you enjoyed this little tour of this very small front yard, and it gave you some really good ideas. If you're looking for more ideas and you're really wanting to get kind of zero in on the levels and layers of plants and trees and kind of how we do our method, then check out our video we did a few months back. It's a levels video explaining that more in detail, and I think you might like it. Thank you guys so much for visiting with us. Take care.